we started today with content and we're going to finish with content. Next year, 2024, the Olympics and the Paralympics are in Paris. And in this last and final session, we're going to look at the digital strategy for the latter. Joining me to do that are Craig Spence. He is the Chief Brand and Communications Officer at the International Paralympic Committee. And Tim Stott, who looks very far away. I'm not sure what happens to the chairs, but let's come closer. Digital Executive Producer for Host Broadcast Services. Welcome to you both. Thank you for coming and joining us today. We're going to mainly be talking about the digital work that we've done in the build-up to Paris 2024. To kick things off, before we talk about what you're doing and how you're doing it, let's talk about why. Craig, what's the purpose behind the digital content that's being created for Paris 2024? What are your objectives?
Well, all our work for the Paris 2024 Paralympics is based around really 4 key objectives. Objective number 1 is the awareness and profile of athletes. Very few people can name a Paralympian. We have some domestic superstars, but internationally people struggle on who the star athletes are. So we work very closely with our international federations, and we focus on what we call our ones to watch athletes. So this is roughly 10 athletes from each sport, and therefore 250 athletes across the games who we base all our content on in the build-up to the games. And we also work with our rights holders and our sponsors to ensure they're the focus. The second one is sport education. There's some differences between Paralympic sport and Olympic sport. We also want to position Paralympic sport as high-performance sport because there's a misnomer that it's not really that competitive. But when you think that Marcus Reim, a German long jumper, his long jump world record would have won him Olympic gold at every single game since 1992, and he's got one leg. He jumps on the carbon fibre blade. So the sport is really high performance now and massively competitive, and the depth of talent is increasing games on games. The third objective is engagement. We've got to sell 3 million tickets at the Paris Paralympics. That's more than we sold here in London 11 years ago. We also want to work with our broadcasters to maximise TV audiences. The Paralympics will be broadcast in 180 countries. In Tokyo, the cumulative audience was 4.1 billion people. We want to blow that out of the water in Paris next year. But the most important objective for us is communicating the transformational impact of the Paralympics. This is what makes us different from every other sport event on this planet. We are a sport event that changes the lives of billions of people around the world. The games changes the lives of every single athlete who takes part. It changes the attitudes of those people who watch on TV, which is why the TV audiences are so important to us. But the games also lead a massive transformation in the host country. We change laws. We see significant investment. So last week, President Macron announced a 1.5 billion investment in persons with disabilities in France, his biggest ever investment. That would never have happened if it wasn't for the Paralympics going to his country. So those are the 4 key objectives that we focus everything on.
Well, thank you. With that in mind, and I guess particularly with the last point in mind, what should we call it, the mood board, should we say, for the Paralympics? Because I think there's probably a misconception that you'll be taking this one direction, but I think actually people will be surprised when they hear your answer to this question.
Yeah, we have to achieve cut-through, so we have to be different. So we don't act like a governing body at all. I mean, you'll have seen the media in the last few weeks. Our TikTok sparked a bit of global debate because we do things very differently. But it's a strategy that really does work and has achieved massive cut-through. Last year, across our digital channels, we had 1 billion video views, which is absolutely tremendous, bearing in mind that last year was a Winter Games where we've only got 5 sports. The year before was Tokyo. So that really does excite us about what we can achieve next year and in the build-up to the Paris Games, which are just over 480 days away.
Is it just fair to say that you're not a stuffy corporate sporting body?
Far from it. I mean, we're a very laid-back team. When we talk about authentic content, we have 3 Paralympians in our team. So they guide us on what they feel that the community wants and the community needs. So when we see newspaper reports of persons without disabilities saying that our channels are ableist, the irony in that is not lost on me. So all our content comes from a good place, and it's athlete generated.
Thank you very much. Now, this digital content is being made available in various ways, including directly to consumers via your channels, but you're also providing rights holders, broadcast rights holders, with additional materials. That's where HBS comes in, Tim. So tell us what your brief is.
So if you have purchased the rights to the Paralympics, what are you going to do? You're going to wait till 4 weeks out and put out a promo. You're going to do paid content for social media. We've taken this, in the last few years, we've moved it very positively forward to engage the athletes themselves. We've done this in ice hockey, badminton, handball, and now in Paralympics, and saying we will make the Paralympians the content, the storytellers, and this is genuine storytelling. This isn't a London-based crew turning up and making them look good. This is them filming themselves with their mobile phone, handing the phone to a coach, handing the phone to a brother, sister, lover, getting someone else to film that moment, and then us, to varying degrees, pulling that content together. Some of them say, I've got this, I want to edit myself. Others say, I hate the editing, can you do it for me? All this is fine. But what we've got is, I know you hate the word, Will, authentic connections with athletes, which for brands is just fantastic. You can say this is actually getting people to care about this athlete's fate in the, not just the weeks, but the months leading up to the games. For the brands, it's a unique opportunity. For the broadcasters, like I said, it gets people to care a lot earlier. So in terms of promoting the actual 2 weeks of the games, it's fantastic. And it's great for the Paralympians because they get to tell their stories on their own terms.
What's so great about this is many of our rights holders are also Olympic rights holders. And when you've got the Olympics as one of your properties, you dedicate a lot of time and effort to creating content for those games. And sometimes there's no capacity to create content for the build-up to the Paralympics. So when HBS come in and creating content for the broadcasters, which are coming from the athletes, it's a win-win for everyone.
Thank you. So we're going to have a look at that, then we're going to talk to Tim in detail about how it's being done. Before we do that, let's see a short clip, please.
Hi, my name is Karina Edlinger.
Hi everybody, this is Maxime Montaglioni.
Hi, my name is Natalie Wilkie.
Hi, I'm James Barsmiller.
Hello, Jacopo Lucchini here.
So now, let's go.
Ethan Hess.
That's hilarious. You touched on it briefly, Tim, but why are you taking that approach as opposed to, as you said, to your point, sending out a camera crew?
Well, firstly, you get a lot more bang for your buck. So we could do
cheaper.
We could do a 4-week activation with an expensive London crew. I'm not saying London's an expensive place to make television, but or we could do this over months by getting them to film themselves. But also, I mean, they're by themselves. They're thinking about the moments. You've heard a lot today about true behind-the-scenes content. Karina Edlinger filmed herself in bed. This is less likely to do that with a 4-man crew standing in a bedroom. So you're getting true behind-the-scenes moments. Every shot in that video was self-filmed, or like I said, through a coach or something. Some people go the full Sound of Music, and Karina was running through the Alps there with her dog, which I'm told only dog to get a Paralympic medal. Is that right?
Yep. You told the story of Karina, who's vision impaired. She has a guide dog. She brought her guide dog onto the podium in Beijing when she won a medal. I was lucky enough to be the medal presenter that day. I gave her dog a medal, which caused the authorities to spark outrage because it wasn't allowed. But that's just us not being too serious again.
So this is all self-filmed. Natalie Wilkie there from Canada. Her team's gathered to fly off to Beijing. She does a little Vox Poppy session and brings all the other people into the story. You're getting a sort of blue sky thinking, which is incredible. It's just incredible to watch. And although this is in many ways scalable production, because we don't have the overheads of normal production, it still depends a lot on one-on-one care, because like I said, people have very different ideas about what their abilities are. I like the filming, I hate the editing. Could you give me a steer on suggested scripts? We're engaging them one by one to say, okay, do stories about what you care about, and they will feel most natural. And like I said, the opportunity then is to say to brands and stuff, look, better than doing a 30-second ad saying we're a sponsor of the Paralympics, this is this gives you that real connection with an athlete that money can't buy.
I want to be cold-hearted for a second. How do you ensure quality with all of this stuff? How do you make sure that what you're getting is going to be good enough to stick on the television?
Well, you ask them what they're planning to make, and you say, maybe we could workshop that a bit and work through the ideas. Not everything makes it. You've got to be brutal and say, to be that honest, that was just a bit too lazy, and what more can you do? We're also accessing the IPC's wonderful archive. We didn't show you in that video, but a lot of people are talking about their great moments. I think all the athletes we've got planned for Paris have competed in previous Paralympics, so we can tap into their archive, and it's a great way, if they're struggling a bit, to say, why don't you talk about some great moments on your phone, and we'll cut that material in. So bringing the premium content from the IPC into the content mix really helps. But basically, it's all about a bit of tough love occasionally. You say, look, I know you've got a story to tell, but this needs a bit more work.
On a similar sort of theme, do you advise them on how to technically shoot this stuff? Lighting, cameras, sound. I can't imagine for a second that the average Paralympic skier knows how to do those things.
Yeah, we get a lot of what I call hostage videos with them silhouetted against a white window. We have hidden the identity of this athlete for their own safety. So we tell them, don't shoot in front of a window. Obviously, audio in noisy places. A lot of them go out and buy little extension mics. We then get an interesting question, is that they get the Scorsese bug, and suddenly they want to make it maybe even too professional. So we've got to strike a balance of saying, okay, let's keep this looking like it's a sort of video you would make yourself. So yeah, there's a lot of process in that, and there is a lot of rejected material which isn't up to scratch.
Give us an idea of what happens once you receive the content. When it comes into you, they've shot it, it's lit, it's whichever, how professional, less professional it might be, then what happens to it?
So then we decide what additional material do we need to make it sing. The durations are pretty much what you just saw. We definitely keep the durations down to what I call Instagram newsfeed durations. We're not going for 16:9, 4.5-minute stories. They're not voice, so if they choose to voice them and send the track, that's fine, but generally we go without voice, and then we're just allocating edit time like you normally would. And one of the challenges is to keep a lid on that edit time and say, that piece is worth 50 minutes of edit. You could spend all day polishing it, but is that really what we're trying to achieve? Making the project sustainable in terms of resources is really important. Otherwise, you blow all your money, you blow your edit time, and suddenly you're thinking, we can't keep this up until the Paralympics starts.
Raj from Sunset and Vine, Melissa from SailGP, the guys from FIBA Media, all said today that different content for different platforms. Are you asking that each athlete are you saying to Dave from Sweden, I want a TikTok video? Are you saying Sandra from Norway, I want an Instagram reel? I'm saying I want a YouTube short. Or how are you taking that content and making sure it's authentic to those platforms?
That's a good question. We've just done this in another sport. We did an actual face-to-face seminar on it, and we said our base unit, I suppose you'd call the 4:3 Instagram story. That's the kind of basic currency. And then beyond that, we're saying, okay, don't try and do a TikTok piece as a microcosm of that, because it won't work. Find a moment which you think resonates and pulls that out, and that'll get us 2 different assets for different platforms. I'm very careful about being too specific and saying this is the latest TikTok trend, you need to do that, because the trends go very quickly. If the moment is engaging, moving, and really compelling, it will normally work on the platform. But we're actually looking then to, like I said, break down the story into moments which, there's our TikTok moment, there's our Reels moment, there's our longer form story.
2 more questions, then I'll bring Craig back in. 1, how do you expect broadcasters to use this content?
Well, we got a good response when we went to Beijing. The broadcasters really engaged with the content. It was great to see. Some of them have specific requests and say, oh, we're more into this, and we have the bandwidth, because we're doing this over a long period of time, to shape the storylines. What we're saying to them is, obviously it has much more use for a broadcaster when we're closer to the event, but this is content that you can drip feed into your channels, say from end of Q1 next year, and really build up a relationship with fans on your channels leading up to the games, and they're responding to that.
Thank you. And the elephant in the room, do you pay them?
I call it beer money. And there's a good reason for that. Is my message is you're not going to get rich, but on the other hand, we need to acknowledge the fact that they're giving their time. So it's enough so that we can, and also you need to pay them enough so that you can ask them to do it again, right? If it's just favours, people say, well, I made a video for you, I'm not doing it again. If you're paying them, you've got a bit more leeway to say, actually, about that hostage video shot, if you could do that again for us, that'd be great. So, like I said, no one's going to get rich, but it's enough to make people, keep people engaged.
Brilliant. That's one of the joys also of Paralympic sport. Our athletes realise the greater purpose than just creating content. They realise the content that they create is changing attitudes towards disability. So they tend to do it for beer money. They just want to help and make this movement bigger and stronger.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to the content now, Craig, that the IPC creates itself. And we're just going to see a couple of examples. Could we see those 2 clips, please?
In the first throw, I was like taking safety as an instruction because I don't want to get injured in my first throw.
Second attempt.
In second attempt, I think that was 68.08.
Oh, it's going.
And then I wrote like, yeah, I have done it because I know that it's a very good throw.
Sumit. World record mark set by him. And he might have bettered it again.
When I see the javelin, at what distance the javelin has landed, I roar like, yes, I have done it because just one throw is left and I have feeling like I am the top of world at that time. That's why I was very aggressive on the field on that day. After the competition, when I met the officials of my federation, they told me that you are getting famous on the Twitter, your videos are getting viral, and that feels very great, I think, and I will never forget, that moment. I will try, to win the gold medal in Paris Paralympics and maybe 2028 Paralympics. But that first gold is very special, and I think that will be most memorable moment of my life forever.
Listen to Steph ski. Sound on.
What can she do here? Now, can she get the line right over the late jump? She needs to set it up well here. Needs to come out from the left. There you go, she's chatting to herself all the way down here. She's talking to herself, saying, stay on it, she says. 92 through the gun, 57 miles an hour. Absolutely incredible. Brilliant ability from Yalen, chatting to herself. Come on, she says. 1:28.19. Medvedev's time, 1:36.6 Jones's time, and Yalen is going to finish. She might even take the lead. Oh, she's going to take the lead. Yalen. A quite brilliant ski from the youngster.
That's genuinely one of the funniest most emotional clips of that nature I've seen. Do we know anything much more about how well that did? That wasn't the question I prepped you for. But
yeah, I mean, the Indian clip is the one that is remarkable. So the Indian javelin thrower won gold in Tokyo with a world record. The clip of that video, which we used Grabio for to clip and push out almost real time, that got more views in the 1 week lead afterwards than all of our Rio 2016 videos put together.
Wow.
And this goes back to, I think, Raj's point this morning about diversity of your team. We had an Indian guy in our team who said, I'm going to send this to Sachin Tendulkar. Sachin Tendulkar retweeted it, and Sachin Tendulkar's got like 10 times more followers on Twitter than Usain Bolt. And it just went unbelievable was the reaction. So yeah, I mean, the content is very much at the moment based on using the archive. We've got 13,000 hours of archive footage from games going back probably to 1960 when we began. And it's just, at the moment, is just sharing those amazing sporting moments with people.
So we saw 2 different examples. One was TikTok, one was Insta. Are you putting, to repeat the question I asked Tim, are you putting different types of content on different platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. The objectives are the same. It's usually great sporting moments, educating people about the sports, transformation, engage people. But we do things very, very differently. With TikTok especially, the strategy is completely different to anything we do on any of our channels. We take such risks there. We have a lot of fun. We don't just show great sporting moments, we do celebrations, but also sport doesn't always go well. Do you know what I mean? Britain was based on blooper shows like Dennis Norden's show, things like that. People love things when it goes wrong. So we show that on the Paralympic TikToks. And why can't we do that? Just because people have a disability, when we're trying to talk about equality, persons with disabilities have the greatest sense of humour on this planet. They have a laugh at themselves. So that's why we have the content which is so different. And the best test bed is our president as a teenage daughter. And the moment our president rings me and says, my daughter doesn't like your content anymore, is the moment we need to change tact. But at the moment, we've got the perfect litmus test.
We're going to go back to how you measure success, and that wasn't one of the answers I was expecting. But before we do get to that, do you create this content in-house then? And do you have a big team, small team? What skill sets do you utilise within that team?
Yeah, we have in the build-up to the games, we've got a small team. Most of the content's created in-house. So we have, the comms team as a whole is 22 people, 16 nationalities. But the content team is 8 people, 6 nationalities. Yes, we do occasionally farm out to teams who can create us content, because we also try and engage our partners in the strategies, and rather than going to an agency and paying an agency a hefty sum, they will come to the IPC and say, look, you know your athletes better than anyone, can we use you to create a campaign for us? Yeah. So we work with them on creating those campaigns. That's when we'll bring in an external crew to produce the content.
And just one quick question to finish this section. Is there a particular style or type of content do you think is most effective when it comes to promoting Paris 24?
It's about... The TikTok for us has just gone crazy. I mean, everyone's talked about TikTok today. I mean, we started it 12 months ago. I think we've got 3 million followers now, which is half what the Olympics have. But we have 40 million more engagements than the Olympics.
Right.
So TikTok has achieved such cut-through for us, and it helps deliver this message of this is great sport to watch and you should tune in.
Do you use Tim's content, well, not Tim's personal content, obviously. Do you use HBS's content as well?
Yeah, occasionally, but we also, I mean, look, what we also want to do is not steal it from the broadcasters, because primarily what HBS create, we want to go onto the broadcasters. So what we try to do is create content that we can also share with rights holders, but we also work with Paris 2024 to say, look, could this content also work as sports presentation in the venue? So we really try to wet the asset as much as we can so they have multiple uses, so we can drive efficiencies across not just our own budgets, but the organising committees too.
Thank you. Let's bring this together. So other than asking your president's daughter what she thinks, Craig, how do you measure the success of your digital output, and or what does success look like to you?
I mean, ultimately, if ticket sales is key for us. Ticket sales and TV audiences are the 2 metrics that I'll probably get measured on next year, as well as media coverage. But like we use the same metrics as everyone else. Like, what's the engagement rates on our social media? We're constantly reviewing what we're doing, what's working, what's not. Speak to the president's daughter. Speak to my nephew who's 15. But ultimately, the ticket sales is an important one, because if you have a venue where there's no spectators, the TV viewers will switch off. Yeah. And the TV viewers are critical, because I can't tell you to change your attitude of disability. You need a positive experience. That positive experience comes when you watch the Paralympics on TV.
Thank you. Tim, from your point of view, what does success look like to HBS?
There's some people in the auditorium who work with us in the FIFA World Cup, so they've heard this one too. Ultimately, it doesn't matter how good you think your story is when you're standing in the edit suite. The only thing that counts is, does it get used by the broadcasters who paid the money? And that's the test, and there could be 24 broadcasts in 6 continents. In this case, this project is very much going to be European broadcasters. But what counts is, are they downloading it from our social media interface, and is it then being used on their channels? And that's all that counts. And it's like standing naked in front of the window sometimes, right? There's absolutely no place to hide, because when you see something which you think was great and it bombs, it teaches you some harsh lessons about life. When you see something, like you said, that little moment that just goes nuts, and suddenly you're seeing it in 6 different languages around the world, it's really satisfying, and it gives young producers a great deal of knowledge about where they should be directing their energy. So we have the capacity to actually modify our storylines and our output in real time based upon what's been used.
Plus, we also know we have a real open policy at the IPC. Not all our content's going to go really well. And it's important that the content that doesn't go really well, we learn from, and we make it better going forward.
Thank you. To sum up what we've been talking about, we'll start with Tim and to Craig to bring us home. If you were summing up the digital strategy for the Paris 2024 in a couple of words, what would you say?
It's your least favourite word. It's about authenticity. It's about organic storytelling from the ground up. And it's about how we shape those storylines and work with people to create a journey that takes people all the way to the Games.
Thank you. Craig, same question to you. Sum it up. What's your strategy for Paris 2024?
Well, I think if you're looking at Theosaurus, we'll go for credible rather than authentic. And athlete-centred, I think, is really important, that it comes from the athletes and we give them the platform to tell their stories.
Thank you. I wish you both the best of luck with the Paralympics and lead up to it. Thank you for sharing your strategy and your stories. Please join me in thanking Craig and Tim for their time.